Welcome into the 2-2 Falcons Today. Atlanta loses in London 23-7 to the Jags. And the big question right now in Atlanta is who should be the quarterback moving forward? Desmond Ridder or Taylor Heinicke? Arthur Smith said at halftime that this is going to be Desmond Ridder. There's not going to be a quarterback change. But after what we saw from number 9, after a back-to-back rough showing, maybe a quarterback change could be coming sooner rather than later. We're going to expand more on that in just a little bit, but let's at least run through some of the stats here. Desmond Ridder, 19 for 31, 191 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Bijan Robinson is awesome. That is the simplest way to put it. He has amazing one-handed grabs. He is awesome between the tackles. He has incredible speed to get the corner and get around the edge and get to the outside. He had 14 carries for 105 yards. Jonnu Smith, I did not have on my bingo card that Jonnu Smith will be a better tight end than Kyle Pitts so far, but Jonnu Smith definitely outperformed number 8, and now we all kind of wonder what Kyle Pitts' role in this offense is once again moving forward, because we are now 4 weeks into the season. That's a good enough sample size in my eyes to have a pretty good sense on who's going to be who. And Kyle Pitts has been a no-show. And I don't know if it's all on Kyle Pitts or if it's all on Arthur Smith's offense. It's probably a little bit of both. But at some point, you like to see Kyle Pitts just sort of take over with his talent. And I was a big put it on Arthur Smith kind of guy. And I still think more blame probably goes to Arthur Smith and his offense for having an absolute Ferrari staying in the garage with Kyle Pitts. But also, at some point, just kind of go out there and make a play, get open, and force them to throw the football to you because you continue to be that old, reliable guy for them. Trevor Lawrence and the Jags, meanwhile, they had 23 points on offense. They didn't have 23 points on offense, right? They had the pick 6, which got them 7 points. So ultimately, Jacksonville had 16 points to show for, 7 of which came on a completely blown coverage to Calvin Ridley in the first quarter. So I liked what I saw out of Atlanta's defense. I mean, they really surrendered 16 points in this game. And if I told you before the game started that Atlanta's defense is going to hold the Jags to 16 points, you probably think the Falcons are going to win, given that Atlanta scored over 20 points the first 2 weeks of the season. But back-to-back weeks where Atlanta has played 8 quarters and they have 1 touchdown to show for. That's embarrassing, right? That's embarrassing on a lot of levels. But most importantly, it's embarrassing because your last 3 selections in the draft have all been top 10. Running back, wide receiver, tight end. And those 3 guys, through 8 quarters the last 2 weeks, have produced 1 touchdown total. Like, there's just too much talent on the offensive side for them to be this bad. And that brings us to this guy, Desmond Ridder. Is this the problem? I was very uneasy about Desmond Ridder going into the season. I tried to hype myself into it, but now we're seeing what I was afraid of, which is a pretty inexperienced quarterback being tossed into the starting quarterback role and him not really swimming and more so sinking. He was 19 for 31, 191 yards, back-to-back interceptions, and they were awful interceptions, might I add, too. Like, they were not, there's no such thing as a pretty interception, but they were bad. The second one especially, I mean, he really just stares down his intended receiver, and the safety jumps on the play. So, who should start next week? Desmond Ridder or Taylor Heinicke? I've always been a sucker for quarterbacks and wanting them to work out and wanting them to be successful. So I've always given quarterbacks a longer leash than maybe your average fan does. I want to see Desmond Ridder bounce back at home. You know, he's never lost at home in college or in the NFL. Hopefully he can take care of business against the Texans next week. But if he can't and Atlanta loses 3 in a row, the Taylor Heinicke stands are going to get too loud to ignore. Let's talk a little bit about Bijan Robinson and the rest of this offense, though. 14 carries, 105 yards. He also made some great receiving plays as well. Had that clutch one-handed grab. Bijan is bringing college to the NFL. What do I mean by that? He's literally like a college. The Falcons are a college team where it's just give Bijan the ball. Like, just whatever the play call is, I don't care. Give Bijan the football. On that pivotal 4th and 3 in the second half when Atlanta was down 17-7 with the ball in Jacksonville's red zone, and they threw it to Drake London, who was pushed out of bounds, I was screaming, just give Bijan the ball. Like, he's the best player on this offense. Don't be too smart with it. You want to trust Desmond Ridder or you want to trust Bijan? I would go with Bijan Robinson. Drake London, unfortunately, had a touchdown, which is not the unfortunate part, but he was limited. Drake London was restrained to 3 grabs for 28 yards and 1 touchdown. Had that lone touchdown grab in the second half. Nearly had a second score, but Drake London, this is what I'll say about Drake London. This is kind of the difference between him and Kyle Pitts. Both guys are tremendously talented athletes, but one of them continues to still overcome slow, below-average quarterback play and produce. Do you want to guess who that is? The other one is dealing with the same situation. Sure, tight end to wide receiver difference, but this is the 2023 NFL. Like, Travis Kelce is not a tight end. He's a wide receiver. So if London can overcome these obstacles, why can't Pitts? That's kind of my 2 cents on that. Now, before we talk about the rest of this game, today's show is being supported by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is a daily fantasy sports app where all you have to do is pick more or less for 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you can win up to 25 times your money on any entry. Prize Picks is super simple and user-friendly. I spend like 1 to 2 minutes on the app every Sunday morning making my selections. So if you're in the Oval Office or you're on your way to the game, get on Prize Picks and start making some money. Now, this week on Prize Picks, you can see my selections were not fantastic. Hindsight's 2020. I had more on Desmond Ridder, 193 yards. Barely missed that one. Drake London, more 46.5 receiving yards. That one did not come close ultimately. Calvin Ridley less, though, 65.5. That one did hit. So I went 1.5 for 3. So pretty close. So do better than me. That's the point here. As producer Sam Snickers, Sam went 0 for 3 today. So I don't know what he's talking about. But listen, go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. The link for that is in the comments and the description of today's video. Prize Picks is daily fantasy sports made easy. Thank you, Prize Picks, for supporting today's show. Go support them yourself. Now, some other numbers to look at here in case you did not want to wake up and watch the Toy Story broadcast, which, by the way, that was not good. That was a big miss by Disney. Jags offense, 358 yards, 243 passing, rushing 115. Jacksonville, they really never got anything going. Those numbers are incorrect, actually, Sam, so we'll just take them off screen. That's okay. Computer did not read them correctly. But the point is, Jacksonville's run offense never got going. And this is where I kind of want to bring the conversation to. Trevor Lawrence and the Jags, sure, they might look at the scoreboard and go, 23 points. Not 23 points, right? 16 points. Ryan Nielsen's defense is playing pretty good football here. Jesse Bates is looking like maybe the best. I mean, this is probably an overreaction, but one of the best free agent signings from March. And I'm also going to toss this out here. If I told you before the season started, hot take, Atlanta's defensive line is better than their offensive line, you laugh in my face. You say you've been in the battery for too long. No way that's true. Atlanta's defensive line is looking a lot better than the offensive line, which I did not see happening. But I think that's a bigger slap and a bigger indictment on the offensive line to kind of pick things up a little bit. Like Desmond Ridder got sacked 4 times. 4 times, I guess, the last sack, the strip sack. But he's also not going through his progressions quick enough to get the ball out. But ultimately, Bijan is not running for his life back there. He does have some good offensive line play at times. But this offensive line is just way too big of an investment. Matthews, Lindstrom, McGarry, all on good, lucrative contracts. Bergeron, second-round pick. And Dolman's not the best of them so far, but he's playing like the best of them so far, at least for value-wise. So, offensive line needs a good kick in the derriere, but the defense, shout out to Ryan Nielsen. I'm a little bit worrisome, and Rolly mentioned this, that this could turn into a Jets situation where if the offense seriously drags behind and the defense is doing all the work, are you going to get some tension in the locker room going, we are not going out there and limiting the teams to 16 points just for the offense to score 1 touchdown? Like, that's too tough right there. So what's your one-word reaction to the Falcons' Week 4 loss as Atlanta unfortunately drops their second in a row? They go from a 2-0 start to being 2-2. But they have some very manageable games coming up on their schedule. No bye. Remember, They are opting to have the bye later. They're going to come home and play Houston. Makes you wonder if that's something Arthur Smith's going to regret, because the Falcons had a choice of when they were going to have their bye since they played in London, and maybe they got a bit cocky going, nah, we'll play the Texans. That's Division II NFL this year. Texans, they just beat the crap out of the Jags last week, and Atlanta's got the crap beaten out of them by the Jags this week. So this is not going to be a simple walkthrough. I know it might look like it because the Texans are supposed to stink, but that Texans team just went to Jacksonville and beat the crap out of the Jags. And that Jags team just went to London and destroyed Atlanta 23-7. All right, that's going to do it for us on our postgame show today. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you joined us for our watch party, by the way, really appreciate you subscribing if you did and hanging around with us all morning long. Make sure to subscribe. That way you don't miss a thing for the Falcons all season long.